I'm a mechanic at Chandler Airport in California, where planes vanish midair and engines scream even when they're off. The rules here aren't just strange, they're terrifying. Don't fix anything after midnight. Never speak to the man in Hangar 4. And if a plane lands with no pilot, run. I broke the rules. Now something is following me, and it's not human. Hey there, night owls. Welcome back to Dr. Snooze, where sleep is optional and the nightmares are real. If you're into creepy stories, strange rules, and things that go bump in the night, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. All right, you know the drill. Lights off, headphones in, get comfortable, because the story starts now. I've always liked machines more than people. The whir of engines, the feel of oil-slicked metal, the hum of turbines settling into rhythm. There's a language in all that, one I understand better than spoken words. That's what made Chandler Airport in Fresno such a good fit for me. It's a small place, just a municipal airport with modest traffic, private planes mostly, but the hangars were mine to work in, my own quiet sanctuary. I'd been working the night shift for 2 months now. It paid a little extra, and since I don't have much of a social life, it suited me. The airport shut down most of its operations after 9 p.m., but maintenance continued until morning. That was my job: routine checks, engine servicing, and responding to the occasional emergency maintenance call. The first time I noticed something odd was on a Tuesday. I just finished inspecting a Cessna that had come in earlier in the day. It was nearing midnight, and I was wiping my hands clean with a rag when I heard it. A soft buzzing sound, like feedback from a distant radio. It was coming from Hangar B, which was supposed to be empty that night. I grabbed my flashlight and headed over. The metal door creaked as I pushed it open. The buzzing stopped immediately. I swept the beam of light across the interior, catching glimpses of tools, crates, and the faint outline of a twin-engine plane under a tarp. Nothing seemed out of place. Still, there was something about the air, thicker somehow, stale, like the hangar had been sealed shut for years instead of hours. I was about to leave when I noticed something that hadn't been there before. Taped to the inside of the hangar door was a sheet of paper. It was yellowed, curling at the edges like it had weathered years of exposure, even though I was sure it hadn't been there earlier. It read, "Rule number 1, if you hear the humming, do not investigate. Turn off all lights, lie on the ground, and cover your ears until it stops." I read it twice, my stomach knotting in confusion. Was it a joke? A prank by one of the other mechanics? I chuckled nervously and tore it down, folding it up and stuffing it into my back pocket. Probably Carlos messing around again. He had a thing for creepy jokes. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The memory of that low hum stuck with me, and the strange rule haunted my thoughts. The next morning, I brought it up to my supervisor, Dave. "You said it was in Hangar B?" he asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "That hangar's supposed to be locked up. No plane scheduled. Are you sure?" I told him about the noise in the paper. Dave stared at me for a long moment. Then he reached into his drawer and pulled out a small, weathered binder. Without saying anything, he handed it to me. The cover read, "Airport Protocol, After Hours Operations Inside." Handwritten in black ink were a series of rules, not FAA regulations, not maintenance guidelines, something else entirely. The first page read, "Chandler Municipal Airport, Night Shift Protocols. Rule number 1, if you hear the humming, do not investigate. Turn off all lights, lie on the ground, and cover your ears until it stops. Rule number 2, if a pilot asks to fuel up between 2:14 a.m. and 2:34 a.m., deny service, no matter how much they insist. They are not scheduled. Rule number 3, the janitor named Martin retired in 1997. If you see him sweeping the terminal, avoid eye contact and do not engage." I flipped the pages, reading in disbelief. There were at least a dozen more. "Dave, what the hell is this?" He exhaled deeply and took a sip from his thermos. "You're not the first one to hear the hum. And that paper you found, it shows up on its own sometimes, like it's trying to warn you." He wasn't joking. His face was pale and his hands trembled slightly. "Are these real?" I asked, holding up the binder. "Real enough," he said. "Follow them, and you'll be fine." I didn't know what to say. The rational part of me screamed that this was some kind of elaborate prank, maybe a weird hazing ritual. But something in Dave's eyes told me he believed it, and that scared me more than the rules themselves. That night, I returned to my shift, the binder tucked in my backpack. Everything seemed normal at first. I busied myself with a routine inspection in Hangar A, replacing an altimeter and checking fuel lines. Around 1:30 a.m., I sat in the break room, eating a ham sandwich and rereading the rules. Some were bizarre. Rule number 6, if the control tower lights flash blue 3 times in a row, lock yourself in the nearest hangar and wait for exactly 11 minutes. Others were oddly specific. Rule number 9, on the third Wednesday of every month, leave runway 3 alone. Do not touch anything on it, especially the red cone. I closed the binder and leaned back. Either this airport had a dark history no one talked about, or someone here had an overactive imagination. Then, around 2:20 a.m., the emergency radio crackled to life. Ground crew requesting late-night fuel service at Terminal Pad 4. Repeat, requesting fuel service. I froze. Pad 4, fuel service. Between 2:14 a.m. and 2:34 a.m., the voice was calm, steady, polite even. Not mechanical, not distorted. Just a normal man's voice. I didn't recognize it. I glanced at the binder again, my finger tracing rule number 2. My hand trembled as I picked up the radio. Negative, Pad 4. Fueling unavailable at this hour. There was silence. Then the voice returned, this time quieter. Please, just a few gallons. I have to leave before 2:33. My chest tightened. Why that exact time? Negative, I repeated, this time more firmly. More silence. Then a click. No sign-off, no acknowledgement. I stood there for a full minute, gripping the radio like a lifeline. Finally, I went to the security monitors and checked the feed for Pad 4. There was a small jet parked there, unmarked. The cockpit was dark, but the door was open. No one was visible. I watched for a long time, but nothing moved. Eventually, the jet was just gone. I never saw it take off. One moment it was there, the next it wasn't. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, I returned the binder to Dave and told him about the call. He nodded. That one happens once a month, usually the third or fourth night shift of the cycle. You did the right thing. I left work feeling like I was trapped in a nightmare that everyone else had already accepted. I began noticing more strange things. Footsteps in the hangars when no one was around. A child's laughter echoing through the control tower despite the terminal being empty. Lights flickering in rhythmic patterns, almost like Morse code, though I never figured out the message. But the worst thing happened a week later. At exactly 3:07 a.m., I stepped outside for a smoke. I never should have. Out on the tarmac, under the flickering runway lights, was a man in a pilot's uniform standing completely still. His back was to me. He didn't move, didn't look around. Then he started humming. Not a song, no melody, just a low, droning hum that vibrated in my bones. My ears started ringing, and the world around me tilted like I was about to pass out. I remembered rule number 1. I dropped my cigarette, ran back inside the hangar, slammed the door shut, turned off every light, and laid down on the greasy concrete floor, hands clamped over my ears. The humming continued for 7 minutes. When it finally stopped, I waited 10 more before I dared look outside. The man was gone. Only my half-smoked cigarette remained, crushed under a boot print that didn't belong to me. For the next few nights, I followed every rule to the letter. I kept the binder close, reading it during my break times like it was a sacred text. And maybe it was, because at Chandler Airport, logic didn't seem to work past midnight. Only the rules did. I didn't talk to anyone about what I saw. Not Dave. Not the other mechanics. Not even Carlos. Something in me knew that if I tried to explain it, if I tried to make it sound normal, it would lose the power it had. And I'd stop believing the rules, right before they got me killed. The airport itself started feeling different too, like it had moods. The hangars weren't just metal shells anymore. They felt alive, watching, listening. It was around 1:45 a.m. when something new happened. I was inspecting a jet engine turbine in Hangar C. The wind outside had picked up, rattling the large metal panels and whistling through the cracks. I had just finished tightening the compressor bolts when the lights above me flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Total darkness swallowed the hangar. I stood completely still. The silence pressed in from all sides. I reached into my coveralls for the flashlight. As soon as I flicked it on, I froze. There were footprints on the floor, oil black, wet, and not mine. They started at the hangar door and led straight toward me. I swung the beam around the space, heart pounding, but I saw no one. And then came the scratching. Soft at first, like fingernails across aluminum siding, but growing sharper, more deliberate. It was coming from behind the engine. Whatever it was low to the ground, dragging something heavy. Rule number 12. If you hear scratching inside Hangar C, do not attempt to leave until it stops. Do not shine your light on the source. Stay in the shadow of the aircraft until 2 a.m. I snapped the flashlight off immediately, heart pounding in my throat. I stumbled quietly to the far side of the jet and crouched down, pressing myself into the curve of the landing gear, surrounded by engine grease and tools. The scratching grew closer. It circled the aircraft once, then again, slower. The air turned frigid. I could see my breath now, each cloud trembling with my heartbeat. At one point, whatever it was stopped inches from me. I heard breathing, ragged, wet, a sound like a tongue dragging over teeth. I didn't move, not even when the flashlight in my hand flickered once on its own, showing me a glimpse of something. Long fingers, pale skin, eyes too wide, and then darkness again. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. The scratching slowly faded, step by dragging step, until I couldn't hear anything except the pounding of blood in my ears. When the clock on my phone hit 2:01 a.m., the hangar lights flickered back on. The footprints were gone. I didn't finish the inspection. I left the turbine tools on the ground and walked out, trying not to run. Outside, the wind had completely stopped. The air was still. Too still. Dave didn't ask questions when I told him I was clocking out early. The next day, I came in early to check the binder. I wanted to know more about the thing in Hangar C. I was desperate for answers, but rule number 12 was all there was. No explanation, no history, just that short warning. That's the thing about the rules. They never tell you why, just what. And even then, only the bare minimum. Later that week, I heard Carlos talking in the break room. He was chatting with Manny, one of the weekend techs. "Ever wonder what's in Hangar E?" Carlos asked. Manny shrugged. Thought it was condemned or something. "It's not on the airport map. You notice that? You go from Hangar D straight to Hangar F." That caught my attention. I'd never even thought about it before. There wasn't a Hangar E on any of the blueprints. I'd assumed it was removed or renamed. But that night, curiosity got the better of me. At around 3 a.m., I took a golf cart out past the main hangars. The night was quiet, but my gut kept twisting with each turn of the tires. And then I saw it. A squat, square building past a row of storage containers. No lights, no markings. The doors were chained shut, rusted padlocks glinting in the moonlight. But the strangest thing, the air around it was colder, still, and I swear the shadows didn't move the way they should have. They were too thick, too sharp. Rule number 17, if you find Hangar E, do not approach. It does not exist during daylight for a reason. I had read that one, but I hadn't thought it meant literally. I turned the cart around and sped back toward the main terminal. When I got there, the clock read 3:07 a.m. That time again. And just like the week before, I saw a figure standing by the tarmac. Only this time it wasn't a man. It was a child. A girl, maybe 9 or 10, in a pale dress. She was barefoot, her skin almost glowing in the harsh runway lights, her head tilted to the side unnaturally, like her neck was broken, and then she waved. Slow, deliberate. I didn't move. Rule number 19, do not acknowledge the girl on the runway after 3 a.m. If she waves, walk away. If she cries, do not turn around. If she speaks your name, run. She didn't speak. But as I backed slowly into the building, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A text message. Don't leave me here. There was no number attached. I shut the terminal doors, locked them, and killed the lights. I stayed inside until the sun came up. I never told Dave, not even when I checked the security footage later and saw the girl was never there. Just an empty tarmac. But I knew what I saw, and I wasn't alone. Carlos came in the next evening, pale and shaken. "You ever hear a kid crying out by the fence?" he asked me quietly. I didn't answer. He didn't ask again. That night I saw something new. In the maintenance room where we keep the spare parts and aviation fuel, a section of the wall had peeled away. Behind it, a door I'd never seen before. It wasn't on the blueprint. It wasn't in the binder. But it had a sign on it. Not a warning, not a rule. Just 2 words. Don't remember. There's something about a door that doesn't belong. It crawls into your head and stays there like a splinter in your mind. The rest of that night, I kept thinking about that unmarked door behind the peeling wall in the maintenance room, the one that had "Don't Remember" painted across it in smeared, uneven strokes. I didn't touch it. I didn't even go near it. I simply stepped back, closed the wall panel as best I could, and left the room in silence. But that door, it never really left me. The following night, I arrived for my shift a little early. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and the airport grounds were bathed in orange shadows. I stood in the parking lot, staring out at the empty runways, and tried to convince myself that I was still sane, that this was just a weird place, not a supernatural one, that these rules, these creatures or echoes or whatever, weren't real, just tired hallucinations, pranks, gas leaks, something logical. But as soon as the sky went fully dark, a low hum vibrated in the air. It wasn't loud, just deep enough to touch the back of my teeth. It came from nowhere and everywhere. I didn't move. I remembered rule number 1. If you hear the humming, do not investigate. Turn off all lights, lie on the ground, and cover your ears until it stops. I dropped to the concrete right there in the parking lot. The hum grew stronger. My ears rang. The air thickened like syrup. I shut my eyes tight, fingers pressed to my ears, and waited. Then, suddenly, it stopped. When I opened my eyes, I saw the paper. It was fluttering down from above me, like it had been dropped from the sky. It landed next to my boot. The same aged yellow paper I'd seen before, but this time the message was different. The door remembers you. That was all it said. I didn't know what it meant. Not exactly. But I knew it was about that door, the one I wasn't supposed to remember. I considered telling Dave, but I knew what he'd say. Don't go near it. Don't ask questions. Just follow the rules. He had a quiet way of surviving in this place, like he'd learned long ago that curiosity was the first step toward a bad ending. But I couldn't let it go. Not now. That door had seen me. At around 2 a.m., I finally gave in. I walked back to the maintenance room, checked all the corners, and pulled back the wall panel again. The door was still there. Blackened wood, iron hinges, no handle. Just those 2 words burned into the surface like a brand. Don't remember I stood in front of it, not touching, barely breathing. I don't know what I was expecting. Then I blinked, and the door was open. No sound, no slow creaking, just a blink, and now yawning blackness beyond the frame. Something cold wafted out of the opening. Not air, not even wind. Just a presence, like being stared at from the inside out. I should have walked away. I should have sealed the wall back up and pretended none of it happened. Instead, I stepped forward. The moment I crossed the threshold, the world around me seemed to lurch sideways. My head spun. Gravity twisted. The maintenance room behind me was gone. Erased. Like it had never existed. I was standing in a long, narrow hallway, the walls made of aged wood and stained concrete. Dim red lights flickered along the ceiling, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. The air smelled like rust and damp soil. And far down the corridor I could hear something. Not footsteps. Typing. Like a typewriter. I should have turned back, but I didn't. I moved forward, step by slow step, heart punching against my ribs. I passed doors lining the hallway, thick metal ones, each painted with a single date. April 12, 2003, August 9th, 1985, December 2nd, 1957. The next door I passed made my blood turn to ice. It was labeled with today's date. August 6th, 2025. I stopped, reached out. My fingers hovered just above the handle. It was ice cold. I didn't open it. Something told me if I did, I'd never leave. So I kept walking toward the sound of the typewriter. Eventually, I reached a room at the very end. Inside was a desk, a green lamp, a broken clock, and sitting in front of the desk with its back to me was a figure in a flight jacket and a mechanic's cap. Its fingers danced across the keys of the old typewriter in slow, deliberate strokes. I couldn't see its face, but I could see what it was typing. Each page printed a single rule, one by one. Rule number 1, if you hear the humming. Rule number 2, if a pilot asks to fuel up. Rule number 3, the janitor named Martin retired. Page after page, it was writing the binder. I opened my mouth to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. The figure stopped typing. Its hand reached out slowly and slid a page off the typewriter. It held the paper behind it toward me. I stepped forward and took it, heart trembling. This rule was different, one I'd never seen. Rule number 31, If you enter the hallway of memory, do not accept any page with your name on it. Burn it immediately. If you read it, you will begin to forget your life, one piece at a time. I turned the page over and saw my name, Eli Carter, typed at the bottom in all caps. My hands began to shake. I dropped the paper, turned, and ran. I didn't look back, didn't check if the figure followed. I just ran and ran until the hallway blurred, the doors vanished, the air twisted, and suddenly I was back in the maintenance room. The door was gone, no wall panel, just a solid wall again. The binder was on the table, open to Rule 31. It hadn't been there before. That rule wasn't in it yesterday. I sat down hard, dizzy, and cold. My name echoed in my head like a curse. And then I noticed something else. On my phone and my photos, I had dozens of pictures from the last few years. My dog, my sister's wedding, old birthday videos. Gone, all of them. Only one image remained, a single photo. It showed the door, don't remember, burned across the surface, and a figure, me, standing in front of it. But my face was already gone, blurred out like I'd never had one. When I woke up the next day, I didn't recognize my apartment. I don't mean I forgot it. I mean it didn't feel like mine. The walls were off-white, not the gray-blue I'd painted them. The photos on the fridge were of people I didn't know. A birthday card addressed to Eli Carter sat on the counter, but in handwriting that didn't look familiar. And the worst part, I didn't remember if I had a dog or not. My brain said yes, but there was no dog food, no bed, no leash, just a collar hanging on the doorknob with a rusted name tag, Milo. I didn't go to work that night. I sat on my floor, binder in hand, reading through the rules again, trying to find some anchor, something that proved I was still myself. But I was unraveling. That hallway, the one behind the don't remember talk door, had taken something, and I had a feeling it wasn't finished. By the next night, I couldn't stay home anymore. The only place I felt real was at the airport, which is insane, I know. But when everything else in your life begins to feel like a dream, you gravitate toward the nightmare that still makes sense. I clocked in around 10 p.m. Dave wasn't there. No one was. Even Carlos had called out. It was just me. And the fog. Thick, rolling fog had settled over the runways, heavy and unmoving, the kind that swallowed light and sound. I stood by the security office, watching it curl along the chain-link fence at the edge of the property. Then I saw her again, the little girl, standing just beyond the fence, barefoot, dress fluttering in the windless air. Her head tilted slightly, same as last time, but this time she wasn't waving. She was crying, loud, gut-wrenching sobs that echoed across the asphalt like a dying engine. I froze. Rule number 19, do not acknowledge the girl on the runway after 3 a.m. If she waves, walk away. If she cries, do not turn around. If she speaks your name, run. But what if she was on the other side of the fence? Was that still the runway? Was I safe? I didn't know. And then she stopped crying. Her head jerked up, eyes locking onto mine like a switch had been thrown. Then she smiled, teeth too white, too many of them. She opened her mouth wider than a human mouth should go, and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I could read her lips. Eli. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I sprinted into the hangars and slammed the door behind me, collapsing to the floor with lungs burning and head spinning. And then the radio crackled. Eli Carter, maintenance, please report to Hangar F. My breath caught. The voice was mechanical, flat, like someone trying to mimic a human tone. No one ever used last names on the radio. Not like that. I didn't respond. Eli Carter, maintenance, please report to Hangar F. The same message repeated, word for word, 5 times. Then silence, and then the lights in the hangar flickered once and died. I remembered rule number 22. If your name is called after 3 a.m. and the voice repeats itself 5 times, do not respond. Do not move until sunrise. You've already been chosen. I sat there in total darkness, heart pounding against the concrete floor, trying not to breathe too loudly. At 3:07 a.m. on the dot, I heard the humming again. This time it was inside the hangar with me. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And then I felt something brush past me, cold, wet, like seaweed dragged across skin. I nearly screamed, but I held it in. I waited. When the humming stopped, the lights returned. And across the hangar, spray painted and dripping black on the wall, were 3 words. Remember the girl. I don't know why. I don't know what she is, but something wants me to remember her, and something else wants me to forget. I sat there until sunrise, Dave found me curled up near the fuel pump, shivering and clutching the binder to my chest. "You're starting to see too much," he said quietly. He helped me to my feet and brought me into the break room, poured me a cup of coffee, sat across from me. "You went through the door, didn't you?" I nodded. He sighed and rubbed his eyes. "Most people don't even see that door. It shows up only for the ones it chooses. Same with the girl." "Who is she?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I don't know anymore." There was a long silence. Then he slid a piece of paper across the table. A new rule. Rule number 35. If the girl speaks your name and you survive, she will come again. You have 3 visits before she takes something important. On the 3rd visit, never look her in the eyes. I felt the blood drain from my face. "That was visit number 2, Dave said quietly. "How many people have made it past 3? I asked. Dave looked out the window. "None that I've known. I left early that morning. On the way to my truck, I noticed something strange about my phone. My contact list was nearly empty. I still had the airport saved, Dave's number, but my sister, gone. My landlord, gone. Even my old voicemails, wiped clean. Only one new message sat in the inbox. No number, just a single line of text. 'We'll see you tomorrow, Eli.' I dropped the phone. It shattered on the pavement. And for a moment I swore I saw a small handprint in the fogged glass. I didn't sleep the night after she said my name. I sat on my couch in the dim light of my kitchen, binder open on the table, phone smashed on the floor, memory collapsing like a house eaten by termites. I couldn't remember where I went to school. Couldn't remember my mother's voice. Couldn't remember what Milo looked like. Just the rusted collar that now hung by my window like a noose. Something was taking me apart, piece by piece. And I had 1 visit left. 3 visits. 3rd time, never look her in the eyes. But what happens if you do? What if you can't help it? The next night, I drove to the airport before sundown. I didn't clock in. I didn't speak to Dave. I just sat in the main terminal with a thermos of cold coffee, watching the sun bleed down over the tarmac, waiting. By 2:30 a.m., the fog had started to return. It always does now. The land calls it in like breath pulled through lungs. Everything softens, fades. Even sound feels far away. By 3 a.m., I knew she was close. And at 3:07 a.m., right on cue, she arrived, standing just outside the terminal's glass wall. Same dress, same tilt of the head, but no tears this time, no waving, just stillness. Waiting for me to see her, I kept my eyes low, not looking directly, just enough to know she was still there. Then she started tapping on the glass. 1 finger, tap, tap, tap. The sound echoed through the empty terminal like gunshots. I pressed my palms to my ears. I repeated the rules over and over in my head like a prayer. 3 visits. Don't look her in the eyes. Tap, tap, tap. Then silence. Then the door creaked open. Not the outer doors. The hallway door. The one behind the wall in the maintenance room. The one that shouldn't exist. It was open again, clear as day despite the night. I turned. Dave was standing by the lockers. "You don't have to go in," he said. "But if I don't, what happens when she comes back?" I asked. "She takes what's left." I took one last look at him, then walked toward the door. This time, I didn't blink. I stepped through with full awareness, and once again the world around me shifted like liquid glass. Time slowed, sounds distorted, and the hallway returned. Same red light overhead, same metal doors with dates, but the door marked with my name was different now. It was open, and behind it was a life, mine. I saw photos nailed to the walls. Me, my dog, my sister, my first car, a birthday cake with trick candles. I saw fragments of memories floating in the air like dust motes. My first wrench in hand, the hum of a plane, a child's laughter in the summer. And in the center of the room stood the girl. But she wasn't a girl anymore. She was tall now, pale. Her arms too long, her eyes too black, her mouth still split with that inhuman smile. "Do you remember yet?" she asked, voice like a music box cracking. I didn't answer. "You came back. That means you want something," she whispered, tilting her head. "Or maybe you just don't want to forget anything else." I still didn't speak, because I could feel it. If I looked her in the eyes, even once, it would be over. My memories would collapse completely. My identity would snap like old wire. "You have one question," she said. I opened my mouth. "Why me?" She smiled wider. "Because you're still awake." Then everything went dark. Not the flickering kind of dark. Not blindness. A void. A vacuum. And then I was back on the runway. Not in the terminal. Not in the hallway. Outside. Alone, it was dawn. A pink line sat low on the horizon, and there, on the concrete beside me, was the binder. Only now it was empty. No rules, no ink, just a single page tucked in the back. Final rule. If you reach this page, you are no longer bound by the rules, but they will still apply to you. Run if you want. Hide if you can. But she always comes back. I picked it up with trembling hands. Behind me, I heard a voice. Ellie? I turned. It was Dave, but not really. He looked younger. Eyes hollow. Voice wrong. She had taken his shape. I turned and ran toward the hangars, binder clutched tight in my hands, the morning sun just beginning to rise. I didn't stop until I reached Hangar A. I locked the doors behind me, curled up behind a crate of brake lines, and waited. And she didn't follow, because it was daylight now. They never follow in the daylight. It's been 5 days. I don't remember what my mother looked like. I don't remember what town I grew up in, but I remember the rules. I write them over and over on scrap paper, napkins, cardboard, walls, so I don't forget. Because if I forget, she comes back. She always comes back. The binder's gone now, just vanished. But the rules are burned into my brain like scars. So I stay at the airport. I don't clock in. I don't speak to anyone. I just keep watch. And if you ever find yourself at Chandler Airport during a night shift, if you ever hear humming or see a child by the fence or get asked to fuel up at 2:14 a.m., don't be curious. Don't be brave. Just remember the rules, because I did, and I'm still here, for now. And that's where tonight's journey ends. For now. If you felt the chill, heard the whispers, or started questioning what's real, then you've already entered the world of Dr. Snooze. Make sure to hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a good scare, and subscribe for more terrifying tales from the darkest corners of reality. Because remember, some jobs aren't just dangerous, they're cursed. Until next time, stay awake, stay alive.